What's good, everybody? This video is going to be your ultimate health and fitness guide if you're a teenager, both if you're a guy and even if you're a girl. The biggest reason I run this YouTube channel is because I never had any YouTube guidance, any online guidance when it came to my own health and fitness levels. And that's what I'm trying to do through today's video. If you watch today's video till the end, I promise you that you'll maximize both your fitness levels as well as your potential in terms of height. Now, your teenage years are extremely important in terms of how you're going to look for the rest of your life. Both your physical height and your aesthetics of your body are going to be decided in your teenage. First, let's talk about physical height. What's the meaning of growing taller? How does a human body actually grow taller? There's two important factors that are different in your teenage from the rest of your life, and those two different factors affect your physical height. The first is that as a teenager, you have more human growth hormones secreted. Especially if you're a guy, you have higher amounts of HGH as well as testosterone. That helps in you putting on a little more muscle than the average adult, and it helps in you growing much taller, your growth spurt. The second very important factor are your epiphyseal growth plates. Don't get intimidated by the word. It basically means that the tips of your bones have these growth plates, and they kind of grow like how you would place bricks on top of each other. So they keep multiplying. Those cells multiply, and that's how your bones elongate. That's how you grow taller as a human being. Now, under normal circumstances, your epiphyseal growth plates will cause your bones to grow according to your genetics. This is where the factor of the relative height in parents comes into play. So let me explain. A 5'6" man is equivalent to a 5-foot woman. Now, if a woman is 5'2", the equivalent height according to her genetics as a guy would be about 5'8". So you gotta figure, okay, who's my taller parent? If you have a dad who's 5'8" and a mom who's 5'6", your mom is actually the relatively taller parent. You add about 5 to 6 inches to the mother's height. Similarly, if your dad is 6'5" and your mom is 5'2", obviously your dad is the relatively taller parent. Now, under normal circumstances, this is how your height will be determined. But the good news is that even if you're genetically prone to being shorter, you still have some kind of a growth range. You can change some factors in your life during your teenage years in order to increase your growth even more than the final height of your parents. And that's what today's video is about. I'm going to talk about 4 very important variables in your life that you can actually change in order to maximize both your height as well as how muscular or how fit you'll end up being in life. When I say muscular, even for the girls, this applies, because I don't mean bulky muscular, I mean fit muscular. Think Deepika or Priyanka Chopra or Bipasha Basu. I'm talking about just that fitness lifestyle. So aspect number 1 as a teenager that not too many people speak about, and something that even parents don't know much about, is this sleep and rest factor. As a teenager, your body is still growing taller, and you need to maximize on the amount of sleep you're getting. Aim to sleep at least 8 to 9 hours every single night, and be serious about this number. During your sleep, that's the time that your body is recovering the most. All the damage that happens throughout the day, when you're climbing up a flight of stairs or when you're walking to your school, all that kind of accumulates as damage in your body. So while you're sleeping, your body releases hormones like HGH, which help in the overall recovery of your body. But you know what else HGH helps in? Your overall growth. If you want to maximize your height, maximize the amount of sleep you're getting. And while talking about sleep, it's not just about the total length of your sleep cycle. You need to care about the quality of your sleep as well. That's a whole other topic. I've covered it in one of my past videos. I highly recommend that you go and check it out. If you're someone who sleeps late and is only ending up getting about 6-7 hours of sleep every night, that's not enough, and it will affect your height in the long term. Start focusing on your sleep cycle. That's the best thing that you can do for yourself. And that's also when we can move on to point number 2. So note down these points for a minute. Your height, your overall fat percent, your musculature, how much muscle mass you hold as a human being, which is very important, the way your nervous system works, your immunity, even how you end up looking, your aging process. All that is decided by your physical activity in your teenage and in your 20s. The way your body is built in your teenage, it's meant to be exerted. Now let me explain something called the overcompensation principle. Now according to this principle, suppose you're lifting a 5 kg dumbbell for a bunch of sets in the gym. Now the way your body will repair itself is that it'll kind of prepare itself in order to lift not just a 5 kg dumbbell in the future, but also a 6 kg dumbbell. So when you go home, when your body is sleeping and you're recovering during your sleep cycle, the next day you'll get up with stronger muscles. Your muscles will be strengthened to such an extent that you'll be able to lift that 5 kg dumbbell that you lifted yesterday, as well as probably a 6 kg dumbbell tomorrow. Your body always overcompensates when it's given some kind of activity to do. Now, if you're someone who's played basketball throughout your teenage, obviously your body is going to overcompensate. Think of someone who's played basketball every single day of his teenage. Eventually his body realizes that, okay, so there's a lot of stretching in this sport, there's a lot of jumping, and it'll be beneficial if I make myself taller in order to reach closer to the rim. And that's also the reason why people like Anthony Davis have grown so much taller than their families. They've broken their own genetic limits. And this happens in basketball, but it actually applies to every other sport. Take the case of Irfan Pathan and Yusuf Pathan here. Yusuf is even taller than Irfan, but they're clearly much taller than their family's genetic limits. This happens in any sport. If you give your body some kind of physical activity to do, it's going to overcompensate. Think of it. Any physical activity is basically exertion of your muscles, exertion of your nervous system, exertion of your bones. And all those things in the long term will lead to your body overcompensating. The more requirement there is for your body to become stronger, faster and better at that activity, the better your body is going to perform in the long term, both physically as well as aesthetically. Why aesthetically? Because eventually that physical activity is going to cause an increased musculature, an increased nervous system performance, an increased bone density, and all those factors I spoke about. And yes, height is also one of those factors that will improve if you include some kind of physical activity in your teenage. Compare that to what most teenagers are doing today. They're either sitting with their iPads or in front of computer screens or in front of TVs. And in the long term, this is actually affecting your overall height potential. So while we're talking about activity as a teenager, there's one of 3 ways that this can go down. The first is that you're someone who just plays a sport. Just even something like running, pakda pakdi, catching cook, all that, that's still better than doing nothing. That's still better than sitting at home. If it's a sport, that's even better. An even better option than playing a sport is doing a little bit of weight training. Weight training will not affect your height in the long term. Detailed video on that topic. It'll in fact actually help you in growing slightly taller in the long term. And of course, it's going to make you look fantastic as a guy. And even if you're a girl, you're not going to get bulky. In fact, all those goals you have of those toned arms, that thigh gap, all that is going to happen through weight training. Make sure you check out the weight training and height video we made earlier on BeerBiceps. But the third kind of protocol when it comes to activity is combining these 2 factors. Combine a little bit of weight training with a little bit of cardio. This case is possibly the best in the long term, and we see this in American sports, especially NFL, that's American football and basketball. All those athletes are made to start weight training at the age of 11 or 12, and they all end up growing to 6 feet, sometimes even 7 feet like in the case of basketball. It's a very good protocol to follow. Once again, go and check out the height and fitness video we made. The third factor that we're talking about is nutrition. Few ground rules. No ketogenic diets. You cannot take up a ketogenic diet if you're a teenager. There isn't too much long-term research been done about low-carb diets and growth. Don't take it up. It's not something I recommend. Secondly, even low-calorie diets, try not going too low on your calories while you're trying to lose weight. Unless you're someone who's very obese, I don't even think that you should be taking up low-calorie diets in the first place. If you're someone who is overweight, just focus on the basic changes you can make. Quit sugar, quit sugary drinks, quit eating junk food, eat home food, and finally do focus on your protein. Whether you're a guy or even if you're a girl, you gotta get your protein intake right. This unfortunately is a concept that Indian society as well as our parents' generation hasn't been exposed to. According to them, high protein diets are very harmful and they might harm your kidneys, but modern day research tells us that that's not true. That also could be a reason, hypothetically speaking, that cultures in the West or in Africa grow much taller physically than brown cultures, because our protein intake in our diets is much lower. If you're serious about how you look in terms of your muscles, in terms of your fat percent, and obviously if you're serious about growing taller, you gotta focus on getting your protein in. Make sure you go and watch our protein requirement video if you want to learn more about that concept. Quick rule, eat at least a gram of protein per kg of body weight. So whatever meals you're eating, try getting at least 20 to 25 grams of protein in that particular meal. And as for carbohydrates, there's a few simple rules you've got to follow. Minimize your sugar intake, minimize your junk food, and try focusing on clean carbohydrates. Anything that's made at home, so that's roti, brown rice, oats, upma, things like that, try increasing the intake of those foods in your meals. Have at least 3 meals where you're having a good healthy portion of carbs. One big bowl of rice, one serving of rotis, just something that will fill you up well that you can eat with your meals. Do not cut off carbs from your diet while you're still growing. And the fourth and final aspect that we got to speak about, that once again not too many people speak about, are psychological factors. Now, your teenage can be a very difficult time of your life, primarily because your hormones are all over the place. That's why they say that, oh, okay, he's hormonal, she's hormonal. You're very moody as a teenager, and it's not your fault. It's also a very difficult time in anyone's life because your college peers, your school peers, they can be mean sometimes. And all these factors can go into affecting your mood, the amount of stress you have, even in terms of your studies, how in Indian society our parents put pressure on us to perform in our studies. So we end up taking all that pressure and keeping it in our heads and stressing about it. Factors like stress can affect your long-term height, and that's the bitter truth about it. That's why we gotta talk about solutions to this problem, especially in India. The first tangible solution is something like meditation. Meditation is one of those exercises that just helps your mind calm down. It helps you deal with all these stresses of life and sadness. If you want to take away just one thing from this video as a teenager, take this away. Go and educate yourself on basic meditation. As a teenager, it's one of the best things that you can do, and I promise you that it will change your life forever. You know how in a video game, when you level up, your life meter increases from 100 to 110? The exact same thing happens with your happiness in life. If you were capable of only feeling happy up to 100 points, once you start meditating regularly, you're able to perceive even more happiness than normal. Your happiness meter will go up to 120 points. That's the biggest reason I promote meditation, especially with teenagers. Now, if you like today's video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. But if you're someone who still wants a detailed diet plan and a training regime, if you're someone who's trying to lose weight, go check out the skinny fat video we made on BeerBiceps. And if you're someone who's trying to put on weight, if you're a skinny person, go check out that video. Subscribe to BeerBiceps, and until next time guys, from Ranveer, I'll see you later.